David Empringham is your new leader here in Trois-Rivières.
The crowd. Watch the crowd. Look at the crew. They're going crazy. You can even hear the crowd. David, you've done it.
His first win of the year, and what a remarkable drive it was for David Empringham from last to first.
Today, the battle shifts to British Columbia. Qualifying 7th, the pressure is all on David Empringham to hold his narrow championship lead, to win on the streets of Vancouver.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Vancouver Molson Indy here in beautiful British Columbia. I'm Paul Chater, along with analyst and race driver Bill Adam, and we're here for round 11 of the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship. And Bill, we've got a real fight atop the standings. 4 Canadians in the top 4 positions, led by Toronto's David Empringham. But David has not had a happy weekend here.
No, it's been very uncharacteristic because the single feature of David this year has been consistency. He has been a very good qualifier, an excellent racer, always there taking tally of the points. But this weekend, he has really had an uncharacteristic run. He has had trouble throughout qualifying and practice in speed. He's been trying in the car. He has looked very fast, but on that all-important stopwatch, it just hasn't come through for him.
And he has qualified in 7th place, and he's a mere 16 points ahead of Claude Bourbonnais, who has qualified on the front row. But the real story of the front row is the pole sitter, BC driver Trevor Siebert. For more on that, let's go down to the pits and our colleague, Larry Nuver.
Local favorite Trevor Siebert is on the pole today. He brings into this race 1 victory and a great deal of confidence. He's been fast all weekend long. You know, this is sort of like deja vu 2 years ago. Am I the first guy to ask you about that race?
Yeah, certainly. You know, I was on the pole here a couple years ago, and I had some bad luck. And Larry, the camera can't see it, but way up there at the end of that grandstand, there's a guy with a yellow shirt on. He's the only guy that hasn't asked me about that.
So other people have asked you.
Yeah, a few of them have definitely asked me about that, but I'm going to quash all of that this weekend here. I think got a lot more confidence than I had a few years ago. I've had a lot more time in the car, and I feel pretty confident here, and I'm probably going to come out and win this race.
Very interesting. Trevor, a lot of local support. Do you see that as pressure, or do you like that?
I really like that. You know, it's very tough to go to a place like Quebec where you see guys like Villeneuve and Bourbonnais, where, you know, all the fans want to actually stop by a trailer and ask where they are. So I hope a few of them are stopping by their trailer looking for me this weekend. And it is a little added incentive to do well in front of your hometown.
It is a very big emotional part of the story. Now, the gamut of that story can run all the way to the Greg Mandrusiaks or the Bob McGregors, who are starting way back in the field. Frankly speaking, their chances of victory are very slim. To Trevor Siebert, certainly one of the favorites to win this race. Or to a man like Frank Allers. It's been a very heart-wrenching year for this veteran, one of the best of all time from Western Canada. He and his team are the subject of this week's Toyota Team Profile.
I don't think it's any secret. You're competing against cubic dollars. Is it frustrating?
Yes, it is. It's very frustrating.
Why continue?
Well, we're not totally out of the picture, and we've been doing this for quite a few years, and maybe we don't know how to stop.
Tom Johnston, owner of Keen Engineering and Racing Nut. He drove 13 years in Formula Fords himself before forming the Keen Engineering Racing team with star driver Frank Allers. Since '85, they've raced Atlantics, while Frank has competed in several divisions, winning 6 sedan championships. Their union, though they've never won a national Atlantic race, has been near family. But 1993, through bad luck and poor finishes, has been most difficult.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I think this is the worst season I've ever had. Well, I don't think we've really tapped the potential of this Reynard yet. I know it's a good chassis. We just haven't had the time or the money to, you know, to test it properly and sort it out, but I think it's coming slowly. We had a test day this week that went pretty well, so I'm pretty optimistic. Results-wise, it's been terrible. You know, I think, you know, 9th place has been our best finish, and that's just not good enough.
Allers has been Western Canada's dominant driver for 10 years. He also runs a successful garage near Vancouver, but he's not really ready to stop working weekends.
Well, I think we can make this car successful yet, and I'm just playing it 1 race at a time. That's all we can do. We need some success fairly soon. I'm not going to run at the back of the grid for very long, you know, without getting tired of it. So something has to happen pretty quickly.
Incidentally, Keen is an architectural consulting firm designing many structures in Western Canada. Johnston's love for the sport dominates the architecture of his own business, but the man who gave Ross Bentley his start may be squeezed out.
Well, it's pretty tough to go backwards, to go to another class such as perhaps less competitive. I've got to make some important personal decisions after this season is over about what I want to do.
So this could be the last Atlantic season for Keene?
It could be. I hope not.
Just how multifaceted is this Keene company? Paddock, race car, and this, the world's fastest bathtub. They've got it covered, tub to tub.
Well, Bill, speaking of bathtubs, there were many who wrote off the Swift DB4 as nothing much better than a bathtub, but Trevor Siebert is qualified on the pole. Now, how much of that is attributed to the car, or is it his driving?
Well, I think earlier this year, Trevor showed us that the Swift is not quite dead with his very convincing win in Halifax. The car was strong, and he was very good. Also, previously here, Trevor has sat on a Formula Atlantic pole right at this track, so he is obviously very much at home on this style of track. And I think the third thing, because he is at home, this has to give him added incentive. It's like Villeneuve being in Montreal. Siebert is at home in Vancouver. You put the three ingredients together, he is formidable.
Well, let's have a look now at the track, and our tour guide today is David Empringham.
Corner 1, very open, fast corner, over 100 miles an hour, onto a long straightaway, leading into the very difficult section of braking where we have to brake in an arc, and you have to be very careful with the brakes that the rear doesn't come around you. Downshifting to first gear, very tight hairpin, tough to get the power down, up to second, third, and fourth gear, leading into corner 5, which is a very tight chicane in first gear once again. Up to second, third, fourth, and fifth, actually, where we lose a lot of light, and it makes it tricky coming into corner 7, which is really just a one-lane, very difficult passing zone, second gear corner. Try to get the power down hard again, keeping your vision far ahead along to a long straightaway, up to 140 miles an hour again into the corner 8 and 9, tough braking in an arc again, very difficult passing zone, down to first gear, second gear, third, fourth, and once again up to fifth gear, passing the start-finish line.
37 gear changes per lap. Over the 40-lap race, that will mean almost 1,600 shifts, one every 2 seconds. Let's watch one more lap, and this time pay attention to David's feet.
Gentlemen, start your engines. Vancouver and round 11 of the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship. Paul Chater along with Bill Adam. Here on TSN, the Atlantic cars are pulling off for the first of 2 warm-up laps.
And this is going to be an amazing race. We might be set up here with the best race of the season. We've already had outstanding competition, but today the qualifying is just as close as you could ever dream about.
2 warm-up laps before a standing start. Bill, let's have a look at the starting lineup. On the pole, as we mentioned before, Trevor Siebert from Langley, BC, driving one of the older Swift DB4s. He's got his work cut out for him today.
And outside of Trevor is the master at the drag race. That is Claude Bourbonnais. He has been simply brilliant all season long, and Trevor knows that he has to try and pull this one out.
On the inside of row number 2 from France, 25-year-old Patrick Lemarrier. He's a Formula 3 driver from France. This is only his second Formula Atlantic race. He's also best friends with Jacques Villeneuve.
Outside Patrick is Jamie Gallus, perhaps trying to put up a good performance in front of Dad, who happens to be here watching the Indy cars. Jamie has been strong in qualifying all season long, has been a little bit of a hard luck case, but wants to do well.
Starting 5th, Claude Bourbonnais' teammate, young Jacques Villeneuve, the 22-year-old out of Monte Carlo, Monaco, the son of the late Gilles Villeneuve. He had some problems this morning in practice. The oil pressure was dropping on the engine. He's a question mark for this start.
And outside row 3, Peter Fossetta, who has had a very strong qualifying performance, perhaps his best of the year. He is only half a second off the pole, is driving very quickly.
We're inside now with the man who will start 7th. That's David Empringham in the MotoMaster Ralt. He is the points leader in the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship, and he's a long way back for him today. Behind him, Mimo Schiaparella, who is driving a Reynard in this event. He's a Formula 3 driver from Italy.
And in 11th place, Kenny Wilden, one of the real favorites this season, and somebody that we have really watched develop. We've known for a long time Kenny has been an outstanding sedan driver, is showing his talent in Atlantic cars as well.
One of the up-and-coming Canadians in the series. The top American in the series, Jeff Barker, is way back in 13th spot. He's currently 5th in the championship point standings. Another good Canadian who's run more Formula Atlantic races than anyone in history. In 16th, Frank Allers from nearby Coquitlam. And Greg Mandrusiak from Kelowna will start 18th. And rounding out the field of Canadians here, Bob McGregor from Langley, BC, will start in 20th. Now, the cars are warming up. They're coming around to stop on the grid. Once they are formed up on the grid, they will be given a warning. All the cars will have a few seconds to bring the revs up. They'll be shown a red light, and then within 10 seconds of that, they'll get a green light for a standing start, and it will be an all-out drag race into the first corner.
Yeah, and how do you beat Claude Bourbonnais? I mean, if anybody was built for drag racing, it's this man. He has been phenomenal this year, almost magical with his ability. And it's going to present a little bit of a problem today, more so than any other track we've seen this year, because these cars are starting again on these relatively hard compound Yokohamas that do not heat up quickly. They run off this straight through a flat-out turn 1, which does not develop any heat at all in the tire, and then a long straight into a hairpin. I think perhaps a problem could develop down there.
Now, we're going to do something exciting for the start of this race. There is an onboard camera with David Empringham, who sits in the MotoMaster Ralt back in 7th position. We're going to sit back, all of us, with David and watch and listen to the start of this race. He's sitting in 7th. Directly in front of him is Jacques Villeneuve. The yellow flag is out as the cars are forming up. The yellow flag is over the lights. We'll see a red light first, and within 10 seconds, a green light, and we're going to watch over David's shoulder, and we're going to listen to the cars as it screams into the hairpin.
Right now, once the yellow flag is removed, in fact, there the flag is gone, so just listen and enjoy. Here, are you going to try and pass? Look at the car up the inside. There's Wilden.
Kenny Wilden up the inside, going into the hairpin. David Empringham is well back. Claude Bourbonnais leads the field with Trevor Sievert in 2nd place.
This was the area I was worried about, Paul. It looks like everybody has made it safely through. Bourbonnais, once again, brilliant off the grid. Leads through there. The pole sitter is in 2nd place.
Patrick Lemarrier, the young Formula 3 driver from France, is running in 3rd spot. David Empringham said he was going to have problems here. He is not at all happy with the car. He said all season long they've had problems in hairpins. And he said basically this circuit is a track with a lot of straights and a lot of hairpins. He's not very hopeful.
And again, an astonishing display of ability on the opening lap of a race. We can see Claude Bourbonnais pulling away. Keep in mind, these tires are a long way from the optimum tire temperatures. They do not have particularly good grip, and it's almost like driving your car on the first snowfall. You're not sure what it's going to be like as you drive down a city street. Look at the gap that he's opened up right now over Trevor Sievert. Jamie Gallus, I believe, is running in 4th place. You can see that David Empringham did regain that position from Kenny Wilden.
Now, look at this scramble into the hairpin. Lemarrier, car number 3, the blue and white car, had a look down the inside on Trevor Sievert, but decided not to make a pass there. As you said, Bill, they're still running on cold tires. These Yokohamas take 5 or 6 laps to warm up, don't they?
They'll be very, very loose and wiggly for the opening few laps. Jacques Villeneuve looks like he's running in a strong 5th place. Peter Fossetta back in 6th place. The cars are just kind of settled down right now and get a feel for the track. Look at them wiggle under braking. That's the sign of the tires being very cold, as there is the first retirement of the race.
That's Brad Krause from Santa Barbara, California. Car number 67 is already out. So we watch the leaders steam down the back straightaway. There's Lemarrier, number 3. Number 11, Jamie Gallus behind him, and Jacques Villeneuve forming that front group of cars as Claude Bourbonnais starts to pull away.
Try to get horsepower down, leaving the corners. The tires will slowly be coming up to temperature right now. Good shot there. That's Lemarrier, the number 3 car. Immediately behind that car with a flash of red on it is Jamie Gallus, and then Jacques Villeneuve directly behind Jamie.
160 miles an hour down the
car.
straight. We've got another car off at the hairpin. Yellow flags being waved. That is car number 28. That's Joe Spizzato, one of the veterans in Formula Atlantic racing.
One more time through the hairpin there. Right behind Fossetta is David Everingham. Very uncharacteristic place for him. I think maybe what David has to do at this point is not to be too rattled. He has to be frustrated, but he can't allow himself to become rattled and lose the concentration. If you have a pig of a car, you live with that car and you try and gain some of those valuable points. He cannot worry about it.
Now, he does have time to sit there, Bill. This is a 40-lap race, a long one by Formula Atlantic standards, and the front group starting to pull away. They all seem fairly happy with their positions. Nobody's fighting too hard right now.
It's a wise move that historically the Vancouver track, as we see a waving yellow flag, there's the car stopped. Just the waving yellow was only worrying about that one particular car. All the cars in a train down the front straight through this flat-out turn one. You can see there's a good idea. The flagger tries to get their attention to warm. Just pull over, fellas. Get that extra car width for safety.
Now, as they head into the hairpin, Bill, this is the best place on the track to pass on a track that doesn't have too many passing zones.
It really does not. It's just an outstandingly difficult track, and I think pays premiums to drivers who are willing to take a little bit of a risk. You have to gamble more than the normal amount on this track because there are so few spots. The hairpin certainly is one. Down at the other end of the track is another good spot, but a lot of it is just simple stop-and-go driving. Trevor Siebert is flashing under the camera there. He is being challenged actually pretty strongly by Lemerrier.
Now, Bourbonnet's managing to pull out a bit of a gap. Do you think Siebert perhaps is holding up that rest of the crowd behind him?
No, I don't think so at this point. I think maybe what Trevor is doing is running as hard as he can with the existing conditions. Claude Bourbonnet, it seems, is just able to stretch a percentage point or two more than the other drivers on what is available from the car at this point. And the tires are still coming up to temperature. It's going to take, as Trevor Siebert, there he is, the patented power slide around the hairpin. He loves getting the car sideways.
Now, that's going to hurt him going into this section of the track, is it not?
At this point in the race, I don't think it'll hurt too much because the rear tires, even though he's power sliding them, they still won't be up to temperature. So, if anything, this might actually increase the temperature faster than normal and help him. Lemerrier just darting back and forth under braking there. There's Jacques Villeneuve going past. Lemerrier's been impressive. Formula 3 driver, only a second time in one of these cars, and he admits he loves them.
That's him there in the blue and white car, number 3. That's the powder blue car. In the back of that group is Jacques Villeneuve in car number 10. Now, Lemerrier is driving the car that Stuart Crow had the rest of the season. In fact, won the race in Phoenix in that car right there, number 3, Lemerrier from France, doing a great job in only his second event.
He was very calm and yet excited about today's prospects. Talking to him earlier this morning before the race, he spoke very highly of the car. He was very pleased and said, yeah, they had been doing little changes. He is reluctant to tell them to do very many changes at this point because of his lack of familiarity with the car.
Oh, Bourbonnet locks up a wheel going into the chicane, and Trevor Siebert came out of the hairpin and another power slide. Now, is he going to use up his tires if he keeps that up?
Eventually, yes. This would damage the tires because just as the tires are not up to temperature, so they're not working at their best, if you get them too hot, then they tend to lose traction, and that becomes a catch-22 situation. The more traction they lose, the more you go sideways, and then the more sideways you go, the more temperature you build, so it's a no-win situation. Trevor will eventually have to watch out for it.
There's Bourbonnet in the lead in the powder blue and white car. Behind him, Trevor Siebert from BC in second place. Now, Bill, he's sliding the car much more than the other drivers directly behind him, an indication that perhaps he's trying a bit too hard to hold off Patrick Lemerrier right there in car number 3.
Yeah, and I think Lemerrier is going to challenge him. Right here, you can see he's going to come up.
On the outside, trying to dive to the inside now. Siebert just shut the door on him going into the hairpin.
Now, Lemerrier should have a better exit off the hairpin. He was able to take a little better line. Look, he's going to swing out wide. I don't think, no, Trevor's going to block him. That's a clean block. That is not a dirty move by Trevor. When I say he's blocking, that is perfectly legal to do. You certainly do not give somebody a written invitation to say, please come past me.
2 laps in a row going into the chicane. Claude Bourbonnet locked up his left front tire. Now, Is that an indication of maybe the brake bias is off a little, or is he just trying extra hard?
It could be one of two things at this point in the race, and we always have to watch the white painted strips on a street circuit. If you get a wheel onto the white paint, they have a little bit less traction than the normal asphalt. So maybe Claude just happened to do that. The other thing is, I think, typical of his driving style, he likes to pull away and almost disillusion the other drivers, make them think he is invincible.
Through the chicane, and Claude Bourbonnais continues to lead, and another big slide out of the second place car, Trevor Siebert.
Yeah, Trevor did this all race long at Halifax and was lucky enough to get away with it. I don't know if he necessarily wants to do that too much here, but right now he is under phenomenal pressure from Lemarrier. And again, to perform in front of your home crowd, you don't want to see your home crowd have somebody pass you. You always want to perform for your fans and friends, and certainly that is an enormous pressure. Oh no, and there is Villeneuve out of the race. That is Jacques Villeneuve. He has pulled over and is out.
And no damage visible to the car. It looks like it just quit. Maybe his concerns this morning about the oil pressure dropping. It's quite possible the engine quit. We'll have to wait for some word from his pits, but he's walking back.
This is a massive turn of affairs for Villeneuve. It really seriously dampens his chances of a championship, because now with this DNF, as long as Empringham or Bourbonnais is able to pick up points, that will stretch the lead. There is the waved yellow flag, I think, warning the drivers of that car stopped.
Villeneuve was sitting, or is sitting rather, third in the point standings behind his teammate Claude Bourbonnais and David Empringham, who leads the championship by 16 points over Bourbonnais. We watch the cars now. They're coming up onto some slower traffic, Bill. Critical point in the race. Bourbonnais is a master at slicing through the traffic.
He is. He is extremely strong at this particular point, and it's not something that's easy to do. You have to be able to more than anticipate, to judge what that driver is going to do and to make a decisive move on it. You cannot take time.
Now, could Bourbonnais be in some trouble? We see now that Trevor Siebert, right directly tucked under Bourbonnais' wing, has closed the gap up.
I think Bourbonnais might be in a little bit of trouble in that his brakes don't seem to be working properly for him yet. The other thing was he got blocked very slightly in passing, so it offsets. And again, like just off the front tire, you can see that tiny wisp of smoke off Bourbonnais' car as everyone is closed up. This is amazing. We have not seen anyone stay this close to Claude Bourbonnais all season long.
Must remember that Bourbonnais is a past winner here. He won the first ever Formula Atlantic race here in Vancouver, and interestingly enough, nobody but a Quebecer has ever won this race.
No, and what this will do, once again, there's the blast of smoke off his front brakes. I think this is a problem of brake bias on his car. I do not think he's running over the painted strips at this point, so the brake bias does appear to be wrong. What Claude can do is affect this in his own cockpit. He does have a small dial that he can turn, reduce some of the braking pressure on the front, and add the pressure to the rear.
Okay, down the front straightaway, Larry Nuver now is in the pits with Jacques Villeneuve's team. Let's find out what happened to him.
We're in Jerry Forsyth's Players Limited pits. This is Barry Green. We believe this is as much a mystery to us down here as to you up in the booth. Did you hear anything?
No, Larry, no, we didn't hear anything. It looks like he just got out of the car. I don't know whether you guys saw anything, but it looks like we've got a full course yellow now. They're going to remove some of these cars on the circuit, so I better get back to work here.
So we're just as curious as you are. So far, at least just moments after the incident, no idea what happened.
Okay, the pace car is out. We have no idea what befell Jacques Villeneuve's car. We will find out, however, when we come back here to Vancouver in the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship. Experience here at the Vancouver Molson Indy, a record 50,800 people through the turnstiles today. We should get a green flag this time past the start-finish line. Now, Bill, what does it do to the tires as well to run these many laps? They're going to cool off. It's got to be dangerous going into the hairpin.
A little bit once again, and again, to go back to a Road Atlanta race where we saw the leader of this race, who was Claude Bourbonnais, go off once the green flag was displayed again, just for that very reason. The tires were not up to temperature, caught him unawares.
Now the lights are off on the pace car. The pace car is heading for pit row. The driver's still weaving back and forth to try to keep those tires hot. We should be getting a green flag this time down the front stretch.
And look at how Trevor is playing game right here. He does not want Claude to be able to get much of a jump on him. There, Claude's under power now.
Siebert gets the car sideways as he gets on the power. Bourbonnais on it early. There's the green flag, and we're back racing again.
Excellent start once again by Claude Bourbonnais. He is just a master at this. Very, very intelligent. Lemerrier looks like he is still in a good, strong, challenging position right on the tail of Trevor Siebert. He may make it. No, he can't. Siebert took a wise line, blocking down the inside.
Siebert in the Dynamax car, number 09, getting a big slide coming out of the hairpin. The blue and white car behind him, number 3, Patrick Lemerrier from France. As Claude Bourbonnais continues to pull away a little as the drivers behind him are fighting for position. That's to Bourbonnais' advantage.
Yes, it is. It really does help Claude at this point. Right now, what Trevor Siebert is doing is driving a defensive race, taking blocking lines. This does not make for quick lap times. All it does is keep the car behind you where it currently is, but it's going to allow Bourbonnais to draw away, as we can see right there.
David Empringham back in the gold car, the number 14 Moto Master Ralt, falling a bit off the pace. We've got a front group of cars running. Now, Trevor Siebert way
Peter
off.
Fossetta.
Peter Fossetta's Ralt, number 15. Big mistake sideways, but he got it going again.
Good, quick recovery there. Stuck it back in gear. Now look at Lemerrier. I think he's going to take a shot at him this time. He got a good run off the corner. Trevor Siebert cannot get sideways off a corner that leads onto a long straight. That's where it will hurt him. On the short straights, there is no opportunity to pass. Watch in the background.
Siebert is really shutting off any opening for Lemerrier to go in there. Jamie Gallas in the red Vital Care car behind, sitting in 4th spot. That group of 3 cars running very close together. Gallas almost ran up the tailpipe of Lemerrier's Ralt going into the hairpin. David Empringham in the gold car getting a slide coming out of the turn.
Sometimes that is easy to do. In fact, as we saw this morning in a warm-up session, when a threesome is together and the lead car backs off, it's just like an accordion situation. Here is a replay. Look at the slide that Siebert is in already. The back end of the car is out sliding. Lemerrier, meanwhile, is looking to duck through the inside, and here comes Fossetta. Totally crossed it backwards, stops the car with no contact against the wall.
Back to the leaders down the front straightaway, and that is David Empringham in the gold car on the left. Behind him, number 15, Peter Fossetta. Fossetta running much better later in the season since he traded his Reynard for the new Ralt.
Yes, he did. And apparently, Lemerrier must have made a little bit of a mistake there, too. Look at Jamie Gallas now trying to come up and try and challenge him. Claude Bourbonnais, still the leader, goes by, and Lemerrier now takes the defensive inside line.
Jamie Gallas, the red, white, and blue car, number 11, really hard on the throttle, trying to find a way around Patrick Lemerrier, but he just can't do it.
And we see what happens. There is Lemerrier, and suddenly, look at the gap that has developed between he and Gallas, just by Gallas getting sideways off a corner. He was spending all of the horsepower going sideways, not pushing the car forward, and suddenly lost 3 car lengths.
There's David Empringham just trying to hang in. He needs to collect the points to keep his lead in the championship. If the race finished exactly as it is now with Bourbonnais in the lead and Empringham back in 6th spot, Empringham would have a 6-point lead, a mere 6-point lead.
And you know something, Paul? I think that Empringham's car is working a little better for him as we're on board right now. Here is the look and the sound as we go around a lap at Vancouver. Flat out through turn 1.
More than 160 miles an hour down through here.
And watch how quickly the car slows down. All the way down to bottom gear into the hairpin and listen. We can get a clear view of the track there. You can watch how quickly the revs climb as you leave these corners.
I'm in a fortunate position that I'm a few points ahead of the blue cars, shall we call them. And but really, that's just better than being a few points behind them. And I'm not going to win the championship by just sitting back here. They're too strong, and if they continue to win or beat me by a certain amount each race, then they'll get the championship. So my strategy is to beat them, number 1. And I think if they falter in one of the next few races, then I could sit back a little bit and be cautious and consistent. But right now, I don't think I can do that to win the championship. I need to fight them head on and beat them here in Vancouver.
Back to the battle for 2nd place. We have a 3-car train. There's Empringham now and being passed by Fossetta down the straightaway. That puts Empringham now back into 6th. The battle was for 5th place, which Fossetta now has.
Let's watch and see how these 2 cars compare. David had been wondering about a horsepower problem on this motor. He admitted that during one of the practice and qualifying sessions, the car had jumped out of gear a number of times, had buzzed the engine to over 11,000 RPM, and they weren't sure if any damage was done or not. They said it didn't sound like it, it didn't feel like it, but they just didn't know because the car simply did not have a lot of straight line speed.
Talking to Empringham this morning, he said the car was not handling well at all. Overnight, they changed the rear suspension, softened it up, They made some major changes to the front suspension. He said the car was exactly the same. It doesn't point well into the corners, and he's not getting the power down that he needs coming out of the turns. He was really frustrated.
Yeah, very frustrating. Kenny Wilden's car, too, just a notice on the front of that Slick 50 car. Look at the wing, the left front wing. It's actually on the right side as we're looking at the car. This is Nemo.
Off the track. No, that is car number 13. That's Kirk Bearwald from Los Angeles, rookie in his first ever Formula Atlantic race. He's had a rough time. He started near the back of the grid. He spun the car, and he has Claude Bourbonnais in his mirrors right now.
Yeah, and I think he better move over, too, because, yeah, look at this, how quickly Claude gets past. Again, makes an immediate decision and goes for it right away.
Bearwald staying out of the way wisely as Trevor Siebert uses the opportunity of that traffic to close the gap on Bourbonnais just a little.
And the person that hurts right there is Jamie Gallus. He got trapped behind the car just for a moment, and suddenly, look how the gap has grown. Trevor Siebert's Dynamax car is closing up once again on Claude Bourbonnais.
21 laps gone of this 40-lap race here in Vancouver. Claude Bourbonnais in the Players Limited blue and white car out front. That's the Dynamax Swift of Trevor Siebert running in second place. We didn't expect to see a Swift this high up. Not the kind of track that favors this car. And in third place, another Ralt with Patrick Lemarie. And there goes David Empringham passing Kirk Bearwald, the lap car, number 13. Empringham in the gold Motomaster car. And he's had his problems today.
A little bit frustrating. Here comes Kenny Wilden through there. You can see that the wing does have some damage. It is not a huge problem at a track like this. If the wing were to be damaged at some place like Road Atlanta or Mossport, that would be a problem itself because the aerodynamic loss would really hurt you. But this is a relatively low track. And again, Bourbonnais' tire is lighting up, is smoking it under braking.
And it's just that left front. He doesn't seem to have that problem anywhere else on the circuit. But it's not giving a great advantage to the Dynamax car number 09 we see right behind him, which is Trevor Siebert, the pole sitter.
No, I've said it before, and I'll probably say it a number of times as the season goes on. I think the man leading this race, Claude Bourbonnais, is the finest race driver in Canada. He is brilliant. He can take a car that maybe is not quite perfect and still win a race with, and I think today we're going to see him really have a strong challenge by all three drivers that are following him.
The front four still in a tight pack with each other. Bourbonnais leads, Siebert in second, Lemarie in third, and Jamie Gallus, whose father is watching from the pit lane. Jamie's dad, of course, owns the Gallus Craco Racing team in Indy cars.
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you say, Dad, this wasn't my fault, because his father has got more experience racing than Jamie does, so...
Here we see the white car in front of Kenny Wilden is Mimio Schiattarella, who is driving a Reynard, not one of the most competitive cars, but he's driving for the Quebec-based Ethnic Ad team, which won this race here last year with Quebec driver Patrick Carpentier at the wheel.
Just a really stunning victory for Patrick, and hopefully we will see him back in an Atlantic car in the very near future. He's a great young driver. So many good Canadian drivers right now. Just look at the field today, and it's very impressive. A lot of the IndyCar teams hang out at the pit wall and they watch these people. They have impressed a lot of people. We will probably see Trevor Siebert close up again under braking. Right there, you can see there's the smoke off the tire, and Siebert closes up under braking, gets sideways coming off the corner. To Bourbonnais' advantage, he at least now knows where the weakness of his own car is, and will try and minimize that as much as possible. He may eventually will take defensive actions. Right now, he is not. He is still basically driving the lines that he wants. But you can watch his car wiggling and snaking a little bit under braking. The car is not working properly for him today.
The only one who doesn't seem to be either locking up brakes or sliding around the circuit is third-place car Patrick Lemarie.
Yes.
He seems very relaxed there in third place.
He is very smooth, and Jamie Gallus is also staying in good close touch with Lemarie. In fact, right parked under his wing as they came through that corner.
Down the start-finish straight, 25 laps gone, 15 more to go in the 40-lap race here in Vancouver. Round 11 of the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship, and we're watching Claude Bourbonnais, car number 9, lead this charge down the straight, and Lemarie being passed by Jamie Gallus heading towards the hairpin. There's number 11, the red, white, and blue car. Jamie Gallus picks up a spot, puts Lemarie behind him.
Well, exactly the thing took place that I thought Trevor Siebert had to watch for. You cannot get a car sideways when you lead onto a long straight. Short straights is fine. The person does not have a chance to get alongside you, but on a long straight, it will get you every time. He got just a bit sideways, could not get the power down cleanly, and that's all that Gallus needed to get the 2 or 3 mile-an-hour advantage. When you carry that advantage down a 1,000-foot straight, it'll translate into a number of car lengths.
Jamie Gallus earlier said that this is not an easy track to do any passing on, but it is easy to do a lot of blocking.
A great line, really. Oh, and look at this, side by side, too. Gallus and Lemarié out of that last corner.
Lemarié trying to get his spot back. The car in the right, number 3, blue and white. Patrick Lemarié, he just hasn't got the horsepower down the straight. Gallus, number 11, hangs on to 4th spot.
Lemarié had to back off. He was on the outside position going through turn 1. And yes, you can run that corner flat out in one of these cars as you're alone, but side by side, I'm not going to try it.
Sorry, that was Gallus running in 3rd spot. Lemarié in 4th, right behind him.
Lemarié still darting around there, maybe looking for a spot where he could repass. The 2 good spots, obviously, one is at the end of the long, it's hard to call it a straight, it's a long curve. But that is the good spot where Claude Bourbonnais is having all of the problems with the wheels locking up. That is the prime spot that Lemarié wants to try and repass because it's very safe.
But unlike the entry into most hairpins, it's not straight, Bill, so they are turning in as they're trying to outbrake. Now that's loading up one side of the car, and that could potentially cause some problems.
Just saw Bourbonnais go past there, and Trevor Siebert was not in the pic. There's Bourbonnais to wear a Siebert.
Bourbonnais lifts up his visor. Siebert
is gone. There is Siebert. Oh, no, he is broken down. No, he's still underway, but he's waving his hand up in the air. The car is obviously very slow.
The pole sitter, Trevor Siebert, out of the race. He had the pole here in 1991, and he crashed during the warm-up. He just can't buy a victory here.
Trevor Siebert, who we talked to before this race began, coast into the pit with the engine off, removing the gloves. Trevor's chances for victory, obviously, in his opinion, they are done for the day. Most unfortunate for this man who's been near the top of this entire grid all weekend long.
All I got left is first gear. Gearbox gone away. I don't know how to explain it. Just have such terrible luck in Vancouver. I thought today was going to be our day.
You had really closed the gap on Claude. You had a shot.
I definitely had a faster car. You know, I was just waiting until close to the end of the race to make a big move on. I don't know.
And the man who gets second place after Trevor Siebert pulled out is this car, number 11, Jamie Gallus, running in second. And surprisingly, Bill, Peter Fossetta now has moved up to a very strong 4th place. He's having one of his best runs we've seen all year.
I agree. I think this is the best performance that we have seen Peter put in this season. He is running really, really well, even with that miscue. As there is also a great battle. Kenny Wilden and Mimos Yatarella, they're going at it tooth and nail as they come around the track here.
Fossetta has 2 third-place finishes so far this year in Phoenix and in Halifax, but he's up into 4th now. The new Rolf, he's sure found some speed after they traded in the Reynard. There's Kenny Wilden now with a damaged front wing, and car number 7 is in front of Mimos Schiattarella's Reynard, number 13.
He really has developed very quickly. That to come from a sedan into a Formula car, they are light years apart, and yet Kenny has really come to grips with this little car and obviously enjoys it.
And when we come back, the dash to the checkered flag. You're watching Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Racing here on TSN.
Our leader is Claude Bourbonnais after 33 of 40 laps.
Well, it looks like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th have actually increased the gaps a little bit. Peter Fossetta locking up his rear brakes a tiny bit. Anytime you see the back of the car wiggling like that, there is too much rear brake dialed in. You want to try and put some more front brake into the car. Oh, and there's a spin under the tunnel. That's Fossetta. Did not, shades of Danny Sullivan.
There's an unusual place to spin, Billy, basically going in a straight line. He had the power.
Oh, look at this.
There's something broken in the rear, left rear suspension. Something snapped because it's an odd place to,
Oh, there it is. Look at the left rear wheel.
Well, he has a 3-wheel steering at this point, and it's not working. Now, that must have been a fright at that speed in the tunnel to suddenly have the car go away.
Look at this. The marshal is signaling Peter back. Peter is shaking his head saying, no, let me rejoin. Here is a replay of what's happening. Watch the car. you're going to see as he starts to get under braking, look at the left rear wheel. Instantly turns to a toe-out situation. The wheel is pointing away from the body of the car.
He tapped the nose into the wall as well. A shame for Peter Facetta, who had been running so well. It takes some of the heat off of Patrick Lemarrier right here in car 3, who is running in 3rd spot.
And what this can be caused by, you can see these cars bouncing over the curbs. If you do this enough, eventually you are going to damage or weaken a part of your car. Probably that's what happened to Facetta's car. He is extremely lucky, a combination of luck and ability, that he did not tag a wall. He is out of the race. He'll only have to replace a rear suspension arm in all probability instead of having to replace a whole car. So very, very fortunate for Peter.
Okay, we have also lost Mimo Schiaparella, Bill, the Formula 3 driver from Italy, whose team won this race last year. He's out. He was not running high up, battling for a while with Kenny Wilden. He's out of the race. Jacques Villeneuve went out very early. We've seen a fair amount of attrition.
Yes, and Greg Mandrusiak, another good Canadian. Oh, and look at this. Again, Bourbonnais has just got enormous problems with his brakes, and he does not have the luxury of a huge lead. There are only a few laps to go, but this car is a real handful for Claude.
Bill, Larry's got something for us now down in pit row.
You are very disappointed, Peter, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what I say. Real disappointed.
Do you feel as though it was driver error or what?
Yeah. Well, it's happened to me in the same place 3 times this weekend, and I guess she's got on the power too hard trying to get by Marie and tap the left coming out of the chicane again.
You were having a great race, my man. A great rebound from a tough weekend.
Yeah, well, I hate saying this, but I hope I get him next week.
5 laps remaining in the 40-lap race, and we're watching a piece of mastery from Claude Bourbonnais. He has led right off the start. Although Trevor Sievert had the pole, Bourbonnais led right into the first corner, and he hasn't looked back.
No, and we were talking about it earlier than the race. It is so interesting that we have not seen this man passed this year. No one has challenged him. No one has passed him on the racetrack this year. It's amazing.
And when his car's been running at the finish, it has always crossed in first place.
Phenomenal talent. But he has a battle right here. Here he is one more time in the hairpin. You can see he's trying to be as gentle on the brakes as possible. Use the strengths of the car. Barry Green and the Players Limited crew do a wonderful job of preparation on these cars. He wants to try and get every last bit of horsepower down as early as possible and use that strength. Minimize the braking problem and use the strength of acceleration, putting the power down early.
There's sixth place, number 7, Charlie Neerberg, and that the red car behind him is number 50, Colin Truman, who started off the season very hot. He had a strong race in Atlanta. He's now running in 7th place behind Charlie Neerberg, but just not showing the kind of flair he did at the beginning of the season.
No, he has been a huge disappointment to me. Now there, that is a sign of immaturity on Truman's part. He got a little bit frustrated because Neerberg chose a blocking line prior to the chicane. He got angry with himself. You can't do that in a race car. You have to remain totally unemotional, totally cold. Because his anger was there, it translated into getting on the gas real hard out of the chicane. In first gear, with this much horsepower in these light cars, you go sideways right away.
Now, Claude Bourbonnais through the hairpin. 2 laps to go, a little slide. He's managing to hold off Jamie Gallus. Gallus still, every time he looks in his mirrors, he sees number 3, Patrick Lemarrier.
Patrick Lemarrier has dropped back a little tiny bit, but perhaps he is just saving something for the final couple of laps. Sometimes it pays off to be extra smooth, and even his car is wiggling a little bit through there.
He looks like he's having some problems now late in the race, some handling difficulties.
Yeah. Yes, again, I think he's running out of fuel. Listen to it, the car is missing.
It's popping and missing. He's in serious trouble. He was weaving back and forth. That engine sounds like it's shot.
Bye. There's popcorn in there someplace. This is similar to what we saw last year when Patrick Carpentier was running in 2nd place, took over position number 1, and there is David Embringham. You talk about being in the right place. He has remained consistent. That is 3rd place for David Embringham.
And Kenny Wilden goes by Lemarrier as well. Kenny's now up into 4th spot. Young driver from Toronto, his first season of Atlantic racing, and he's only run a few races so far this year. This problem with Lemarrier working to Embringham's advantage.
Fabulous job by David. Claude Bourbonnais going around here, he is trying to be as smooth as possible right now. He will be concentrating at the maximum. Only a short distance to go for another brilliant victory for this French-Canadian driver.
He has really been manhandling this rolled around this tight circuit. 1.7 mile circuit, 2.7 kilometers, 10 turns here on the edge of the water in Vancouver.
There's the wave.
Checkered flag for Claude Bourbonnais, a flag-to-flag victory, a beautiful piece of driving. In second place, Jamie Gallison, car number 11, the red, white, and blue car. And running in third spot, here's our man, David Empringham, the Moto Master Ralt, the points leader. Hangs on to the lead. The gap closes a little bit. Bourbonnais winning the race, getting 20 points. And in third spot, Empringham. Great drive for David with a car that he was not happy with.
And the winner of the Yokohama Now You've Got Control Award, Kenny Wilden. A really impressive performance all the way from 11th up to 4th at that final flag.
Claude Bourbonnais, and it seems like whenever Claude wins a race, although it's been routine this year, it always seems like it's important. It's like you needed to win this race.
Well, I always try to win the race, and if I can, well, I'll try to finish the race. Just had the opportunity to win them, and when I didn't, well, I DNF. But most important for the last 5 races of the year is to finish the races, get the point. I got closer to David this weekend. The team did a great job, Players Limited team, and I'm just looking forward to the next one now because I just want to work my way back towards David's championship lead.
Claude, at one point in the race, Trevor seemed to be getting closer. Now, was that you just being careful and sort of controlling the intervals, or was he closing in?
I was being a little bit careful because I don't know what's the problem, but under braking, at some times, not all the time, the car was pulling to the left. And I almost hit the wall a couple of times, and I didn't know what the problem was, so I was being a little careful under braking. But I think we were running fast, both of us. I don't know what happened to him. I just came out of the corner, and he was gone, so I don't know what happened to him.
Lost all gears except the first gear. Jamie Gallo said it's not so hard to pass here. It's just easy to block.
Yes, that's true. It's very easy. It's a narrow track, and you can make it difficult for someone to pass. I don't know what happened to my teammate Jacques, but I'm just happy to have carried the Players Limited Foresight green colors to the podium today. If Jacques can be there, well, at least I'll be there.
On his way to the podium, and there's one other record he's kept intact this year. He's still undefeated. Whenever he's on the track at the end of the race, he wins.
This copyrighted broadcast of the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic races today in Vancouver. After 40 laps, Claude Bourbonnais led from flag to flag. Jamie Gallus, a great drive in second place. David Empringham with a car that he was not happy with, he said was handling badly right from the start, managed to hang on as other drivers fell out in front of him, and he finished third, collecting valuable points. And Kenny Wilden, great drive for the young driver from Toronto. In fourth place, Charlie Nierberg, the veteran, in fifth. Colin Truman starting to show some of the speed he did earlier in the season. In sixth place, Jeff Barker, the top American in the point standing, finished seventh. Steve O'Hara, privateer, nice guy, runs a shoestring budget, finished in eighth place. And Patrick Lemarrier, despite the problems with his car, finishing in ninth. And in 10th place, Zach Brown, a newcomer to the series in an old Swift DB4. And the next race in the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship comes to us from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, one of the great road courses in North America. And you'll see it here only on the point standings in the Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship. David Empringham, as we said, leads by 10 points over Claude Bourbonnais. Jacques Villeneuve, even though he did not finish the race here in Vancouver today, hangs on to third place with 117 points. And the Canadians 1, 2, 3, as they have been throughout the season. The Players Limited Toyota Atlantic Championship is brought to you.
The Now You've Got Control award, but hey, there's some cash there.
That's okay. It'll help pay for the broken wing on the front there.
A well-deserved victory for Claude Bourbonnais on behalf of the entire TSN crew. For Bill Adam and Larry Newber, I'm Paul Tater. We'll see you from Mid-Ohio on September 12th.